Welcome to the GH Mini Spotlight. Here on JLJ Media, I'm James Law Jr. Your long-running show of 8 years, kids. 8 years.
Woo!
I know, it's crazy. And he's been on before over the years. Whenever I call, he answers the phone. So that's what I like. But he's busy too. He has produced a film. He does graphic novels, voiceover work, but you guys know him for this show as Brad. And so he had some amazing work done recently that people want me to talk to him about. So here we are. Parry Shen. How are you, Parry?
Well, thanks for having me again.
As always, it's always good. Okay. So first, I mean, it's a lot of things I want to talk to you about. And I'll get to the General Hospital in a second. But I want to go into you. So you did some graphic novels recently. Did you like co-created them? So I want to know how that.
Not recently. It's actually been now almost about like 15 years or something like that. Something crazy. Yeah.
That's 50. Okay, because we've never talked about. I mean, all the interviews I've had with you, I'm like, wait a minute, I want to talk about this kind of. So I mean, what can you tell us about
one
that?
in 2009, and the second one came out in 2012.
Okay, and so when you did them, did they? Because you do voiceover work and you've done some amazing, for Walking Dead series and all this. Like, did that all kind of come together? Is that all related to you? Is that kind of related?
Not really. But I did use my skill set to promote the book because it's sort of a graphic novel, which means it's a compilation of like a thick comic book. It's like 112 pages, and to promote it, I made I voiced over some of the characters like in like 2-minute spots, and just like zoomed in on them. So it wasn't animated, but it animated with, kind of like, zoom in, zoom out, sound effects, my voiceovers. I was like, this is what I can add, guys. This is my thing. I know. And they didn't really know how to really make trailers. I'm like, I see it, guys. Just let me do it. But where it originated was that I grew up loving comic books, loving comic books. There's probably not many people in the world that know more than comics than me.
Okay, he put on the gauntlet. He said that. He said it, folks.
So I worked at Marvel Comics for a while. I collected comics, and so I've always wanted to make a comic. And unfortunately, we noticed that like the guys that I sort of collaborated with were all fans, but and then a lot of comics were getting optioned into movies. And we're like saying, oh, unfortunately though, a lot of the characters are created from the 1920s, 1930s, right? So it's like they're all white characters, right? So it's like you're caught in this horrible cycle. So we created a universe of all Asian American superheroes, so then that people would then hopefully option and create into a bigger platform. And so that was kind of our genesis of it. So all the characters had to be they couldn't just be Asian, because otherwise people could option it and say, you know what, we'll option this, but we'll make them white, right?
Yes.
Which is, so it had to be like something like, so for example, my story was called the Hibakusha, which means descendants who were affected by the atomic bombings from Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So the radiation causes their mutation to happen, and they get abilities. So a little bit harder to make them whitewashed. Yes, there could have been some spillover white people getting it,
right. I know what you mean.
But it's less likely, so stuff like that. Another story that someone wrote was this Japanese hero had all these abilities, but then the bombing of Pearl Harbor happens, and all of a sudden he gets thrown in an internment camp just like everybody else, so can't really throw white people in the Japanese internment camp.
No, you can't. So, no, you can't at all.
So that was kind of the genesis of this graphic novel.
Oh, I love it. Well, cut to now today, we're starting to see Asian comics, obviously, movies coming out, obviously, and TV shows and stuff. I mean, what are some of your takes on it? It's starting to happen. It's starting to happen, I think.
Yeah, it's I did a movie called Better Luck Tomorrow that came out 20 years ago, and it was the first Asian American in a feature film. It was released by Paramount and MTV Films. And then people came, when we're doing press, people were saying, so is this going to change everything? And I was like the pessimist. I was like, I was like, come on, man. We kind of like broke the system because the system wasn't working for us. And the system's now got to catch up to us. I say it's going to take like 20 years. 20 years later, everything everywhere all
Everywhere,
at once.
yes. I was gonna say yes.
So, and I said back then, I said, I hope it doesn't take that long, but this is it. This is how it is. And I'm a realist, you know, unfortunately. And I said that hopefully I'm still young enough to still be in the business and can benefit from this. So we'll see.
Oh my God. My friend David was a fan of South Korean pop 20 years ago also. Like and there was a guy named Rain. He was huge. He was this huge guy.
Oh yeah, I know Rain. Yeah.
Rain. So we went and saw him at concert, we saw him on MTV, this whole thing. And we kept saying, "Oh, he's gonna break into the market. He was learning English. He's gonna break into because it was Jay White. Right? So I hope it's a whole. I went to
Ninja Assassin. He was in that movie,
yes,
right?
Exactly. Yes. We also did Korean soap operas. I mean, he was a big thing. But the music, but he didn't quite make it. But now, 20 years later, we have all these groups from Japan and China and BTS. I mean, everybody's doing now it's on. Now it's huge. But I can tell people it's been a long time. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
So that's kind of crazy. So we're seeing the Asian part finally catch up, I think, a little bit, but and the movies are good. We're seeing the movies like Squid Games came out. Everybody's like, oh my goodness, like these things, they're good. They've been out here. They've been out here always. I remember back in the day, there was The Wedding Banquet. There was something. I mean, there's only a few things I thought that was Asian or Eurasian or American. Like it was like a few things here and there. It's like finally we're getting like just let it have the same release as everything else. Just put it out like everybody else. So we'll be me and Perry be fighting this for a long time. We're trying. Men of color, trying to work this out. That's great. And how is the voiceover work doing? Because you're so good at how's it going?
It's great. It's interesting seeing the different phases because before, like I would say, like 10 years ago, I was doing a lot of video games, and now because of Squid Game, all of the streaming services are buying Korean soap operas, from Japan. And they need a lot of English dubbing because if people don't want to read the subtitles, they go to the English dubbing. So I get a lot of work. I probably do one a week. It's kind of nuts. I'm not sure all of them are as good as Squid Game because they're just kind of like buying everything, but it's kind of interesting. It's kind of cool. I'm like, wow, okay, let's just ride this until, we'll see how long this wave lasts, So that's kind of what's going on right now in the voiceover world.
Well, it's funny also, I write and produce audio dramas. And we started them during the pandemic when the soaps ran out. And they're actually becoming very successful. They're actually working out for me. I write them, people act them. But I'm noticing there is a difference, and you talked about this on State of Mind a little bit. There's a difference between dubbing someone else's performance and actually playing the character yourself. Can you talk about that a little bit for my audience? I want you to talk about that a little bit, just how it's very different.
Right. So dubbing, as you mentioned, like, so the performance is already done. So you've got to kind of like match the intensity and also different languages, like something in Japanese, a word for hello could be like, 3 words. So all of a sudden, like you have to like figure out a way to spread it out because the mouth flaps are still going while you say hello. So we're also constantly like rewriting to see hello, hi, something like that to like stretch it out. So that's why when people complain that the subtitles never match up to the English dubbing, it's for that reason, because we're trying to, but if you do pay attention, they take painstakingly detailed of trying to begin and end when their mouth open and close, because that's where all the work is kind of done. And it's kind of like karaoke or Guitar Hero with words, because literally they say, all right, I'm going for a session, let's go, let's look at it with the words and the timing, let's record it. It's almost like soap operas. It's like it goes so fast. And people who do it for the first time are like freaked out because they're like, and I was freaked out. I remember after my first session, I'm like telling my agent, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't know. And it was more from fear, like what actually Maurice was saying, like he just didn't, like he was just out of his element and he's like, and that's uncomfortable, but after a while, after seeing Squid Game, and I'm like, oh, you know what? I don't think this is going away. Let's see if you can get good at this, because this may be something that may not hasn't been tapped into yet and could be huge, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, so now, you know, there are some. It sucks to have to match someone else's performance, but it's great that I don't have to memorize any lines. I just show up to work. I'm like, let's go, let's go.
I love it.
And what's really fun is that I'm usually booked for 2 hours. So the first hour I work on the lines of my main character,
Okay.
and then the second hour is to fill in all the minor characters. So it's like I get 5 characters. They're like, okay, this guy's going to be a banker. He's a nerdy banker, whatever. And then I'm like, and then the old guy, oh, thank you very much. You know, and then the teenager kid, oh, thanks, Dad. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's great. So, but you know, if you're actually performing, it's like, you know, doing any other acting where it's like you're doing research and you're getting to create it. But you know, it's just different things, and you just have to know how to like tweak it, you know, for whatever performance.
Well, I'm telling folks, there's all kinds of work in this business. Trust me, there's all different kinds of things they need.
Yeah.
So you're a good example, and there are others. Some of your other people out there, some of your other favorite stars are doing the same thing. They're doing other work too. So keep that in mind. Now we're going to talk about General Hospital. I love this. I went to General Hospital, and I had Kathleen Gotti on last week, and our buddy. She praised you on the show. And your performance. She did. Totally praised you. We love Kathleen. She's a very generous person anyway.
Yes, she's great.
Just great. Because it was funny. After all, because last time I had you on the show, you were being carted off to jail, and they were going away. Mm-hmm. So it's funny when they brought you back and everything. There's still layers of Brad that we're still seeing, and again, almost like with her. Because I said with Liesl too. I said, all these years you guys have been reoccurring often on the show as like almost like supporting characters. You've literally had a chance to grow. So I want to ask you to start there first. How does it feel to be an actor in a role that's, I mean, like you said, off and on, but you actually have grown and changed since when you first started as Brad?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, went from just conniving and just like being very selfish and, you know, making indecent proposals to Michael Corinthos, you know.
That was fun. That was fun.
To being, you know, a parent, to losing a child, you know, and losing a child again, and then going to prison, and then to being reformed, and then having his best friend, and at the height of it, you know, singing karaoke, you know, this is what they do, and then losing her, and then experiencing that. I mean, it's an amazing arc, you know, to have, when usually when I recur on a show, it's for like 3-4 episodes max.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I figured. I was saying with her too. I said you guys do a lot of episodes like television stuff. It's very interesting to come in and still keep coming back and still getting to play new beats on story that, you know, because a lot of times it's the same. So you come in, your purpose is this, so you play that, and then you go. And your purpose is this, and you play that. But we saw different sides of you, and one of them that I was so excited about. Speaking of Asian, the fans wanted it. The fans wanted it. The fans are going back in time and pull out the order story. You know, I've talked about it on the show, but they actually did. You and the glorious Lydia Look, we love her. You guys play aunt and nephew. So they connected you two. So how's that?
Yes. That was great, because I saw her come on in like 2015. I came on 2013, and she was just like kind of in the background of saying like, these are the you know, the crime families from the Woos. I'm like, oh, Woo! I was like, here we go. Let's go. And that was under Ron Carlivati's reign. So when that happened, that's when he left the show, and I think that's when, you know, the new writers, they weren't planning that, so they never went there. So I've been waiting.
I know you have. I've been waiting.
Yeah. So I'm glad that they saw the, you know, the new writers saw you know, things that were already laid out. You know, all they gotta do is like, let's put a spotlight on this. Yeah.
Well, you guys also got to speak some Cantonese. Was it Cantonese?
Yes, Cantonese.
I'm like, we never see that on daytime. So how exciting was that?
Yeah, that was fantastic because, and it was also didn't come out of left field because usually like the triad crime families originated from Hong Kong and they only speak Cantonese. And but Cantonese is such a dying language because everyone's speaking Mandarin now. And so Lydia and I, well, Lydia speaks many languages, but
Yes, yes.
I've known her for decades now, and we've
it's hard to say that, bro, Brad. You look so young. I know it's hard to say that, folks, but it happens. It happens.
That we've worked on projects that we spoke Cantonese, and so I was when it was appropriate, I'm like, we should try to find a way that makes sense to speak Cantonese, and I think it's something that they already have. It's like, let's utilize it. We don't have to do any extra work to like learn it.
Right,
let's just do it. It just will add another layer of authenticity and have those subtitles going in there, and also goes to like a little subtle layer of like Selena really, maybe Brad didn't know Chinese, and all of a sudden he's conversing with his aunt now in Chinese. Like, oh, she's really kind of like sinking in and like bringing him into this world. So there's a lot of different layers that is kind of like just of us just speaking that. So it was really cool that it worked out and they let us do it.
Yeah, no, I think with the cast right now is very diverse right now, and I think a lot of people who are Asian or who are Black, we have a large Black cast in there too. We're watching the relationships to see how authentic they are. They seriously, and it's like there's certain things if you're Asian, there's certain things you wouldn't talk to your elder a certain way.
Right.
If you're Black, you wouldn't talk to your mothers. Like there's certain, and they're watching, and I think General Hospital's following. I see that, but I see that the actors too are kind of also doing it. But as I said, you and Selena, it seems very much like, yes, this is your aunt, you are the nephew.
Yeah.
Yes, very much. Having a Chinese godmother, Japanese godfather growing up, I know how I spoke to them separately than I spoke to other people. It was very different.
Yeah.
So I like that with you guys. So that was a say. So do you guys like talk about that as behind the scenes? Like, okay, we're gonna make sure we're gonna try to be as authentic as possible, or how that?
Well, it was first we brought it to the writer's attention.
Okay.
And to Frank's attention, so that they can, if they know that they have this if they want to use it.
Okay.
So once we got the script, we saw that this is Brad and subtitled, and it was like the font was horizontal, which meant that you're speaking this English, but you're speaking in Cantonese. I was like, oh dang! I was like, wait a second, can I say this? Like, do I? No, I'm like, do I need to ask my mom?
That's so funny. Oh my god, I love it. I love it.
Yeah. So then we started like being a real ad lib. Like when she came into, we were the MetroCorp bar with Britt, and then she comes in and says that Brad, I need you for this, and then she walks away. I said I said a quick Chinese like bye, and then she said it back. Don't worry about it. I was like they let us do this stuff now, just like little things.
I love it. I love it. Oh, I do. I love that. In the middle of all this stuff, there was a famous arrival that people in your hospital will never forget of Cody coming in from the sky. Cool. Now, I don't know if you know this or not. Everybody told you there are a lot of folks who wanted Brad and Cody together.
Yeah, and then and Brad was making eyes at him,
Yeah,
so yeah, they didn't know which way it was going when he first arrived.
I thought you said that. Which way
Britt
is
and
going?
Brad gonna fight over him, so.
A lot of folks saw chemistry. They said, "We see chemistry." Like it was unexpected. It was just such a like. Well, again, the whole thing was an unexpected thing, but it was like, oh, Brad, because when you guys had scenes together, it's like they did kind of crackle a bit. We two actors working together. It's like you guys just kind of crackled a little bit. I don't know. It was great.
Yeah, it was fun. If it went that way, it would have been fun because we did have a pretty fun dynamic. That the little things that we interacted with, and just like seeing my Aunt Selena kind of like beat him up, and Brad feeling immensely guilty because he got him into this game. So I wish they would have explored it more. I thought they could have, but we'll see.
So when did you, as an actor, find out that Kelly was leaving the show? Do you remember?
Let's see.
That should be
I
out.
think when it was kind of being in the soap websites,
Okay.
they were like rumored that
Yeah.
like she was gonna, because of Station 19, whatever, and then I would hear her in the makeup chair, so like saying, oh, I hope they kill me off. And I'm like, oh, I was like, piecing it together. I'm like,
Yes, yes.
oh, okay. And then later when we were rehearsing, I just asked her, I'm like, so are you, leaving, and so yeah, I think it's time. So I think they're gonna have me go out, but I don't know how I'm gonna die and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, okay.
You're like, great. Okay, great.
Yeah. Okay, great. Back burner.
I know. Well, that's the thing. Well, so I always wonder about it because she was basically your main scene partner.
Yeah.
For the most part, you go by scene partners. She was the one you were with the most.
Absolutely.
And everybody was invested in the friendship. The fans are invested in the friendship. So I would think they go, oh, they're getting rid of my scene partner.
Yeah. Well, this has happened to me before when she left the first time. So I was like, it is what it is. I've got an aunt, to interact with. But at the same time, I've known Kelly for so long, and I know all the other aspirations that she has, and now was a good time, and it was a beautiful way, story wise.
Oh yes.
To end that friendship, it's like it was so great, and I love that we had like the pinnacle of like the karaoke, us singing on stage together, showing them at their happiest, and the audience got to share that, and we got to show that, so I thought that was great, even though I didn't want it to end, obviously, but at the same time, just looking at it objectively, I was like, this is great.
Do you like singing?
I love singing.
Okay,
yeah,
so you guys sing it. So like you like singing.
Yeah, no, I love singing, and Kelly loves singing. But we know that we're both not the greatest singers. But with karaoke, it gives you a little leeway because not everyone's good at karaoke, right? We're not producing an album or something, because that would be something different. So we're just like and what our strength is that we just go all out, and the audience likes that, and we don't care what we sound like, and that's Brad and Britt.
Why do you think Brad and Britt work? Now that this kind of storyline has come to this natural end, and looking back, why do you think it worked? It's
something that the show didn't have. It was a dynamic that the show just didn't have. Because, and I learned that sort of very early on with when I would recur on shows, and they said that, hey, if you're gonna, like, I was gonna recur on NCIS LA, and that the guy was saying, hey, you're gonna have to do something different, because if you're too much similar like the guy that we have, we're not gonna keep you. There's no reason. And that was always in my head, and just didn't work out. Like, but then when I would have an opportunity to recur on a show, I'm like, I gotta give them something they don't have, And you can't really force it, but like it just happened, like, because I wasn't part of the soap world, and I watched soaps a little bit. I had an understanding of it, but like I wasn't afraid to like call out certain things, be like, to infuse humor when there was like a lot of dramatic tension, and just like, and that's what I normally do in real life situations. So it's not coming out of nowhere. I use humor as a defense mechanism or to lighten the mood. And so I found moments for Brad to do that. And then working with Kelly, there were moments with her, her character to do that. And that came to a head. It met with the nurses' ball red carpet when Sam fell down, and we were like bagging on her, and that was like boom. It touched. A lot of people were like, some people who love Sam were like, oh, how dare they? But you got a whole other side, like, yeah, they do this at award shows,
exactly.
And that was not being addressed, of that audience, So, and all of a sudden, it's like, oh, these guys are doing that, okay. So I think that's where that connection came from.
I know, I completely agree with you, and I also think there was none of that will they, won't they tension that usually in male-female friendships on shows. I mean, it's very Grace, very the kind of thing where it's like, no, they're purely friends. There's
Right.
nothing to worry. He's gay, she's straight. There's nothing. Another twain shall meet. So I mean, I kind of felt
Right.
that.
Absolutely. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that was different than the other shows on there. So that there were other characters on there. Um, so I know you're an actor. He's trained, folks. He's trained, hard to find, trained. He's a trained actor. But I just also want to ask though, did you have to go somewhere for someone? Because we saw Brad devastated. Like we didn't see Brad. I mean, we saw you devastated when you lost your son on the show, kind of. But this was like you brought us to tears. This was like it was fan, and I love when you talk to fans online. But there's fans who were like, "I hate Brad, but you know what? You saw it." They were like, "He just brought me." You know, it's like we saw the end of a friendship. You lose it. We've all lost. I've lost a friend. We all lost. I mean, it's like it's kind of like this. Where'd you go for that? If you had to go anywhere, where'd you go for that to get that emotion out?
That was actually very easy because the circumstances were so real, you know. Whereas, losing a child because I took him, a little hard. I mean, you can get into the circumstances, but at the same time, with this one, I'm really losing a friend, on the show that I worked very well with, and it's like, okay, this could be, less time on the show. This could be the last time I'm on the show. So it's like, just thinking back, I had all these things that were accessed, the first time we met, our first scenes, and what really kind of that kept going in my head was, and it got me emotional too, was when Britt came back before I went to prison. I remember reading in the script that, and then Britt shows up, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
Yes, she
I was
did.
like, "This is." I was like, if this is the way I got to go out on the show, and you never see me again, of course I have to say one last goodbye to her. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. And then because I had not seen Kelly in a long time, also as a person, but also as a character, and she's like, "Hey, Brad," and you look, and then it's like, "Oh, she came, she was there for me," And then so, being in that her office with the ice cream, and the ice cream at the nurse's ball, it's like all these are real memories to me now. So it's very easy.
I guess it's kind of like, well, I don't know. You can tell me right. Is it kind of like school, kind of like college, kind of like their memories from a time that you were on campus, so to speak? Is it that's kind of similar?
Absolutely. It's like, being at camp, you're there together for a short time, but you do so many great things that you normally don't do in your real life or when you're in school. Or I've talked to this about with Josh Kelly, because he was an Army Ranger, and when you're on tour, in serving, for a short period amount of years, 3, 4, 5 years, you become really tight with that, and you're in the trenches, and we're in the trenches, trying to make these scenes work, and just making these circumstances happen. And so yeah, it's a very, because like Kelly and I, we don't hang out,
Right, no, right.
on our off, but like at the same time though, we have very special shared experiences when we're on the show working, that is, I think, just as important.
Yeah, I agree with them. We also saw a couple of people that you didn't always interact with, that they were kind of pushing together. You and Maxie, so you and Kirsten Storms got to work together. And what do you think about the kind of, they're trying to, like, she's her friend, you're her, like, it's, yeah, how was that? What was that like?
Yeah, it totally made sense. Well, when my character was in prison, I didn't see the show much.
Okay.
So I didn't know that Britt had grown so close with Maxie during that time. And then so I played catch up, and I'm like, oh, okay, I see this. And so it makes sense that, her best gal pal and her best, guy friend, would have that shared grief, and this whole missing in their lives, and that they would find each other, and they've got that snark too, and but it's great that they also don't get along. So that's like, it's gold, comedy gold right there, potentially.
It was. But also, then you had some scenes with Liesel, which is our girl, I think Kathleen Gotti said she praised you for your subtle work. What was that? What was that like working directly with her? 'Cause, I mean, she's losing her daughter. Well,
Yeah,
lost her daughter in her arms, but like
right.
that too.
Yeah. And that's great because we Brad and Liesel have never really been gotten along, but at the same they kind of bring that same, sort of comedic vibe, I love Kathleen. We sort of we're sort of always been in the same boat, whereas like we've never been sort of like the main part of the cast, but like we have to do something that's more interesting to stay on the page.
Yes.
So we always talk about that stuff. So being able to work in a different light where our characters have this shared moment was really great. She did this great thing where before her and Scotty are about to go to the memorial and leave Brad to do whatever they don't know he's got ice cream, but she's supposed to just leave, and she did this moment where she like just touched me on the arm and then looked at me, and that was enough. I was like, I'm not supposed to cry right now.
She mentioned that scene. So funny you say that, because she said she asked him beforehand, "Can I do this?"
Oh,
so it's funny you said on my interview last week. She said that was the scene that she was like, "I wanted to add an extra touch," and like literally. And she said she asked him ahead of time if I could just try something. They said, "Go ahead." They said, "Go ahead." So it's funny to respect you.
Yeah, makes all the difference. People may not have seen it, but I mean, it definitely helped me, get to the place I needed to go, the scene right after.
What is, okay, the side note for just a little behind the scenes, folks. What is it like to, I mean, is it, some people say it's like shits and giggles, we laugh all, and then all of a sudden it's like action. You're like, I mean, and then you go back. So what is it kind of been like for you to do these emotional scenes? And then, like you said, because soaps are fast, it's like now the next scene.
Right. It was, it's tough because sometimes, you can't hold the crew hostage just because you have important shit to do. As much as you want to, you can't, because everyone's like, they're joking around, they're going to be there 15 hours, they're holding up the boom, and it's like, guys, please, I'm really important to see, so that falls upon the actor to make sure you're keeping the engine running while they're getting all the stuff going, and getting the costuming, and you got people, pampering, fixing your hair, whatever stuff that you don't really care about, but has to be done. The lights got to be right, the sound's got to be right, and so you really can't depend on people to shut the hell up, So I think that's kind of like I think that's what a person who's been doing it for a while, they know that's what they have to do. So that you just got to be in the zone, whether that means walking away from everybody else. So that's what it was, especially during the corridor scene when Brad, the audience finds out that Brad has found out that Britt died, and we're meeting Nina and Maxie, and we're in that hallway, and there was a lot of setting up logistically, because then the reporter comes in, and the timing wasn't right. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, oh my God. But whatever. I mean, that's making a show,
Right.
But
after the motion to get out. After the motion to get out.
Exactly. So, yeah, and then then you can also use that frustration, channel that, So it's. But I mean, I know I've been on sets where some people can't do that, and we get scolded. Guys, please.
Yeah. I did a show called Studio City with Sean Kanan, and I remember I had to look a certain. They were like, "We need you to look this way," and it was so awkward. It was like, I gotta do this scene like this, and I'm thinking it looks weird, but like, no, it's perfect. It's perfect. It's I'm like, okay, and act natural, James.
Yeah.
I don't know how you guys do it sometimes. I'm like, how? I'm like, it's just like, look this way, and then say lines. Hi,
Yeah.
I'm Jane. I mean, it was weird. It was weird.
Sometimes it's more important that it looks right than
Yes.
but sometimes good directors, they know that, and
Yes.
and Frank is really great about knowing, trying to make it work for the actor. And if it feels weird, he'll try to move something, and he's always been fantastic about that stuff. But sometimes if it doesn't, you have to be like, do this, as you said, it's a weird pose, and you just got to hold it and find a way to make it work.
It works.
Because...
Now be natural. And oh my God, I'm trying.
Yeah.
Yes, I did. You guys do, especially in soap opera, folks. It's they always say it's just quick. It's like do it, get next, do it next. They got things. Right. They got things to do. Perry, thanks for being on the show as always. Thanks for always coming back and talking with me. I mean, you're hilarious and a delight. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I love your questions. It's always great talking to you.
What do you want to say to the fans? Just the Brad fans and maybe the not so Brad fans. Anything you want to say to them?
I have to say, there are a lot more of the Brad fans than not lately.
There are. There are.
Because I go seeking out, on social media.
I laugh all the time. I love it. Oh yeah,
it's getting harder to troll people because there's not a lot of bad stuff being said, which is great, which means that they're coming around and they realize that there are a lot of gray areas with people, and they accept him kind of like for all of his faults and him trying to be a good person, and he hasn't killed anybody yet, so
he changed some tests, but that's it. He hasn't killed nobody.
Yeah, come on, who doesn't do that?
Wait, before you go, do you have any events coming up? So make sure you promote anything events coming up.
Yes, we're doing a Zoom event with my aunt Liddy Look, Selena Wu, June 4th, a Zoom event. So yeah, you can get those tickets on Coastal Entertainment. And I just finished one with Kelly last week and went great. And so yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
And where can they follow you?
Just my name, just spell it correctly, ParryShen. So at Parry Shen on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
It's not Parry.
Yeah.
Pull it together. It's fine. I'm James Ott Jr. and James Media Spotlight, of course, is here on all social media platforms. JLJ Media everywhere, and we'll see you next time.